How dare Hansen make me crush on a smarmy psychopathic villain? Don't you know that's my type? Hello, welcome to Sound and Fury Book Reviews. As usual, I am Tina. Today I am doing a one-off book review of the sci-fi Nophek Gloss by Essa Hansen. There will be no spoilers in this review, except at the end when I warn you they are coming. So, because there's some things I want to talk about that that would definitely be spoilers. So I got this book from the library. Just telling you, I like the library because I'm cheap. I tend to only buy books that I really enjoy that I got from the library. Yeah, I am. I'm very cheap. Anyway, the cover, first of all, before I even get into the review, is absolutely fantastic. Like, the lights on the ship look like they're actually glowing. Like, it's such a cool cover. I mean, the cover alone would have drawn me in. So if you like spaceships, there are lots of spaceships in this book, really interesting spaceships. So definitely read it for that reason, if nothing else. So what is this book? It's a complex and extremely detailed sci-fi that straddles both space opera and hard science fiction, I would argue. So it's extremely ambitious and it's very exciting. It's an adventure and I really enjoyed it. But what the heck is it? Like, what is this weird title? What the heck is Nophek Gloss, you know? So the story follows this young man named Caden who realizes that the world he grew up in isn't what it seems, you know. It's far more vast and complex than he's ever realized, and this makes him angry. He's angry for many reasons having to do with this. You know, the wool has been removed from his eyes and he sees the world for what it really is, and he is furious, righteously furious. It's a revenge story, you know, but it's much, much more than that. That's just kind of the overarching plot. If you want a more in-depth explanation of what the book is without spoilers, check out Scott at Book Invasion's review of this. He tells you a lot more kind of about the background if you're someone that tends to get confused with a lot of like jargon in these novels. It is complex. He does it without spoilers, which is great. I wouldn't be able to. I'm also a go-in blind reader, so this review will be more about kind of my opinion or my emotional response to the novel rather than an explanation of like the scientific terms and explaining kind of the society and the ships. So if you really want that before you read it, I would definitely check out Scott's because he explains a lot of stuff that I was confused about. So my review proper. As I said, I really enjoyed it. I was quite enthralled by it, actually. You know, the world and the aliens that Hansen created. You know, there's a grittiness to the story that got very dark, but it never spiraled, for me at least, into disturbing. I'll say there are allusions to torture, and there's a death of a pet, so if that bothers you, you can be prepared for it. That's kind of the extent. I mean, other than just typical regular violence, I guess you could say. It is a violent story. It's definitely like an 18+ story. Anyway, but these moments of tragedy, you know, are spiraled between these moments of hope. So it really is a good balance, I found. Like, I would get, my heart would kind of clench, but then it would be like, really, like, oh, okay, everything's fine. And then, oh no. Anyway, the action scenes are very exciting, and the story weaves in ways that you don't expect. As I said, you think it's a revenge story, but it's more than that. And the world-building aspects are integral to the story, and they're not just the backdrop, which is something that I find is important. Sometimes with sci-fi, people will be like, oh, here's this cool world, but then the story has nothing to really do with that, and this definitely does that. The world is a very important part to the actual story itself. Now, I absolutely loved that we were made to learn about the world as we go, just like Caden. I'm very fond of mimetic stories like this. In that regard, I thought Caden's age at the start made sense for the story. When I realized he was 14, I was like, oh. But, sorry, not to be mean to 14-year-olds. It's just, when I was 14, I was kind of dumb. And, you know, I'm obviously not saying all 14-year-olds are like this. There are some very mature 14-year-olds. But when you think of 14, you think of someone, you know, still coming into their own, still learning about the world. While that can be endearing, I like that more for a side character, not a main character. Anyway, there is an aging process to the story. This is not a spoiler, really. I found that to be one of the most improbable aspects of the story, but I found that it wasn't thrown in. I didn't think it was thrown in, though, just to, like, make the story kind of progress faster. You know, other characters undergo this as well. It's part of the world building. So that kind of worked for me. One place, though, where the story fell a little flat for me was the minor characters. The story puts so much focus on, like, the overly, I'd say, maybe complex technology and the hard sci-fi aspects that the characters fall a little bit to the wayside. I'm not talking about Caden and Fry, who's the main antagonist, but the rest of Caden's crew. You know, we only learn about them from what they tell Caden and, you know, about one another, rather than seeing them in action or seeing kind of things. There's some little things here and there, but, you know, in truth, I didn't kind of feel the familial bond that Caden talks about when he refers to them, as I didn't see enough of them, I found, to kind of really form that in my head. I definitely, though, enjoy the diversity and fluidness of gender and sexuality in both the crew and the universe at large. I thought that was really well done. It was very normalized, and it was really, really quite cool. There's a lot of like body manipulation in this. It felt kind of cyberpunky at times. So if you really like that kind of thing, you'll really like this, I think. Caden himself is an impetuous and stubborn boy, young man, though he's very determined and morally fixed. I didn't love him, but I liked him. I found his motivations understandable, and his mental journey was quite harrowing. He makes stupid mistakes. You know, he's 14. I made tons of stupid mistakes at 14, which kept the story from being formulaic and predictable. So it was actually good that he was young, because he wasn't just some like battle-hardened mercenary. He's learning as he's going, and I thought that was actually quite well done. I enjoyed following him around, but what I liked more kind of was his revenge quest itself. You know, while he was motivated by personal retribution, this is not just a kill the villain story. You know, this is not Kill Bill. We're given a deliberate explanation that the society within that the villain functions within is integral to maintaining the stability of the universe. So that was a really interesting thing you don't often see. Usually it's one protagonist going up against one antagonist, and nobody thinks about how, you know, taking down this antagonist would affect everyone else in the universe or the world. So this complexity to the world building I thought was actually quite stunning. It is confusing at times, though. Like, I didn't realize near the end, like until almost the end, that the Caston, the main antagonist group, was not a people or a world, but a corporation, for example. Maybe we're not supposed to kind of really fully understand that until the end. I don't know, maybe we are, maybe I just missed it, I don't know. At one point, Caden also destroys a TV, which was like public property, and I'm like, he doesn't have to pay for that? Like, are there police? Like, why do people can just destroy stuff and nobody does anything? That kind of little things like that, I kind of was like, what? There were other little things that I was kind of like, okay, but who deals with this? Who fixes this? It's like when they talk about world building in like writers groups, they're like, think about it, you know, who gets rid of the sewage? Who takes out the garbage? Who deals with the administration? Like, that kind of stuff felt like I was kind of wondering about that. One last kind of thing. How dare Hansen make me crush on a smarmy psychopathic villain? Don't you know that's my type? Woman, you crazy woman, you swordswoman, you falconer. Anyway, my predilection for villains aside, Thry, the main antagonist, is, you know, he absolutely stole the show whenever he was on the page. I love a complex bad guy. I love it. And Thry worked perfectly for me. I can't say anything else about him because it would just be totally spoilers, but yeah, anytime he was on the page, I was like, this is great. Even though he's a psychopath, but that's okay. That's why it's fiction. So overall, you know, this is one of those books that kind of sticks with you. I finished it like 4 or 5 days ago when I'm filming this review, and it keeps coming back to me. I keep thinking about it. I think it struck a chord deeper than I realized when I finished it. I mean, it was one of those books when I finished it, I did sit there and was like, yeah, I was like thinking about it for a while. I don't often do that, and I think that's a mark of a good book for me is when I actually am, you know, not just done with it. I'm kind of like, I kind of want more. Anyway, I very much enjoyed this rich space opera with a touch of hard sci-fi, and I look forward to the sequel, Azura's Ghost, which I think is coming out at the end of this year. Orbit, if you happen to watch my video, if you do, can I have an art copy? An hard copy, please? Anyway, I'm going to be giving it a 4 to 5 stars. It's a very high 4 stars, but, you know, based on my rating system, even though I really did love it, you know, my rating system stands. I definitely intend on buying it after I drop it off to the library. I recommend it to people who, like, I'd say Cameron Hurley, I guess. Like, this, it kind of reminded me of The Stars Are Legion in that way. The visceral violence, actually. I'd say Cameron Hurley is a good comparison. So if you like any of her, so I have a few of her books, then I think you would like this. So thanks for watching. I'm going to jump into some spoilers now. I loved the Nophek. Oh my god, that was such a cool twist. How It was such a cool twist on the alien monster trope. You know, I loved how Caden tames the big one and then adopts a puppy version at the end. I was like, oh, so cute. It was, as I said, it was such an interesting part of the story. And I think the death of the older Nophek was the worst part of the book for me. I was like, I mean, I knew it was coming. You know it's coming when you had to bring it in front of what's her face, it's like Gangna or whatever the heck her name is. You know, it was like having a dog in a horror movie. You're like, I know it's gonna die. Why do you do this to me? Anyway, yeah. I adored in the book how everything weaved together. You know, how Caden's adoptive parents were farming the Nophek, who created the gloss, which the cast then farmed as Zelda Unity, but then how Caden's parents and he were engineered humans specifically for that purpose. I love that these revelations were kind of revealed as the story went along. We weren't just told, like sometimes books, the guy, it'll start off with a prologue where the guy is like, I was the product of genetic engineering, blah, 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 like too much exposition. I mean, really, it's not that complex. I just kind of wrapped it up right here, but the way it's shown is quite brilliant. How we have to tease it out, and that's what makes it a really interesting story. I want to talk about Letta for a second, or Letta, I'm assuming. It was so obvious she was still alive, but in a good way. I mean, if you don't see someone die on the page in any book, you can always kind of harbor the assumption that maybe they're still kicking around somewhere. I thought it was a little tiny bit too heavy-handed for me that she was still around, but obviously you can't just be like, she's dead and then bring her back. Like, the fact that he kept bringing her up and that, he saw a 20-year-old version of her in that Viscant person, like, I thought it was well done. It's hard to balance that kind of foreshadowing. I do like how that her story kind of allowed for a logical progression to book 2, and it also showed another aspect of Thry's personality as well. He could have just chucked her out to the Nophek when he found her, but he took her in. Granted, he seems to take people in that he can use for some way, but I liked that he wasn't kind of sadistic, that I enjoyed that complexity with him, that he was like, his apathy I found quite interesting. So I'm going to keep talking about him, I guess. Damn it, he's so interesting. I loved the kind of weird dynamic they had, like how Caden kind of, in a way, kind of looks up to him even though he detests him, like almost like he's a mentor, but a mentor that he plans on murdering one day, kind of almost like a Sith kind of relationship. It had some interesting tension that I really liked. I also liked how we're led to believe that Thry disliked Albrecht because they had a romance that went sour, which is so cliche, and I was like, really? And then it's revealed that he's his sister, and I'm like, this got more interesting. This is a good twist. Hansen also did a good job, I said, with his apathy, like towards everything, really. How he never hurt the Nophek pup at the start, like when they were trying to get into the ship, but he didn't stop his officer from being cruel to it. But how much of that, though, we're not sure, is, to cultivate his aloof aura, and how much was it that he simply didn't care about the treatment of this creature. It's interesting, because I wonder, if we're supposed to believe that he's made himself this way to accomplish his goals, or if he is just a born sociopath, or if it's a bit of both. I just found him such a fascinating character because you really couldn't figure him out. You didn't really know kind of what his deal was, and I really, really liked that. Honestly, I'm reading the second book for him, not really for Caden. Like, Caden's fine, but, like, I'm kind of like, I want more Thry. Or Thray, or however you say his name. Anyway, let me know if any of that appealed to you. Let me know if you read this and you didn't like it. I saw a couple reviews on Goodreads that people said it was too complicated and all this stuff, which is fine. I mean, no one has to like the same stuff. But I really enjoyed it, and, yeah. I want a spaceship. Super cool. Thank you.